So this is the assignment that we're working on is task 2, where what you're doing is you were taking one of your thumbnails from the previous assignment and you were using that, it, trying to, it should be identical. So each of the 4 thumbnails that you have here should be exactly the same. The only thing that is going to be different is the color, the color itself. Why are we doing this? It's because, color is one of the design elements, along with texture and line and shape, but it happens to be a very powerful one. And this is something typically I think a lot of designers do at this phase, where they have a design where they have mocked up a design and they take it and they kind of experiment with the color, because color can change the mood or the feeling. You'll know, and that's what I think the main takeaway I'd like you to um, get from this particular phase is not necessarily what specific color harmonies are out there, because we have a color theory class where you can learn more about that, but just how color can really change your design quite dramatically. Um, let's see. Yeah, okay, I think that's about it that I wanted to say. Then what you're going to be doing is taking this one of your final thumbnails, the color thumbnails, you're going to be taking that and moving that into the final step, which is task 3, one of these, and just developing it a little further. Um, all right. Okay, I don't think I have anything more to say about this. Let's just get started.
Okay, Katrina. Okay, good. I'm glad you asked people about your font. That's a yeah, again, great way to get feedback from the average person on how your design is looking. I'll just say when you work as a designer, it kind of goes. There's really, I think, 2 things that can happen when you get feedback from clients. One is you get really great feedback that helps you improve your design, assuming that the feedback you get from your clients is from people who don't know design. Sometimes, though, you get feedback that's not so good, and you have to use your own best judgment. Like a lot of times, people will say, "Hey, I just really love this particular color, and I want everything to be bright orange," even though, for example, even though you know that's not a good color for that company or client or whoever you're working for, but somebody who you're talking to just loves that color, and you have to try to tactfully say, "I don't think that's a very good choice for you because of these reasons." So you have to kind of modify, like when you get feedback from non-designers, people who aren't trained as designers, and as well as designers as well, but just for the sake of this discussion, like non-designers, you do have to be, you have to think about what kind of feedback you're getting and does it really fit with what you know about good design, um, and use the information wisely. I felt like I should say that from last time. But in any case, okay, so yeah, you were thinking about, yeah, contrast. That's something that if you look at all of your design studies here, if you look at all of them in terms of the text, there's one that has the highest contrast from the text to the background, right? And that's this one right here. That'll also most often, let me just zoom in here be a little bit, most often be the one that is easiest to read. More contrast typically means easier to read. Not in all cases, but in most cases. And then these 2, I would say, are the second ones that are the, easiest to read. And then this one is a little harder to read because, again, the text and the background are a little bit too close. It's not so much about the hue itself, it's about the value. So light versus dark. It's a good way to kind of think about that. So for this one, you could, change the value here to make it a little bit easier to read. Um, okay, so let's just start with your colors here. Neutral, achromatic with a pop of color, monochromatic, and analogous. Yeah, they're all really nice. The analogous is really pretty. So is the monochrome. They seem to really fit, those kind of soft colors, have sort of a cool spa-like quality to them. And, I'm not as fond of these ones for some reason with your design. I think that this one maybe is a little too subdued, and this one maybe is a little too, well, This is, I would say, it's a little more dramatic than these ones, you know, which maybe would be work. I'm not a really big fan of having a solid black background. So if you go with this one, I just swatched your color here. Let me see, try to get this into the, oh, okay, I'll just leave it here. I swatched this color, and so you can see it's a black. So one way that makes a nicer dark background, you can use this tip for anything, is I'm going to swatch this color here, which is your purple. Then what I do is I always go to the very dark. You can see this is your black. This is where I am right now in the color picker. I'm just going to go a little down, down, down. You see how it's almost a solid black, but it retains a little bit of that purple. It's much more beautiful and rich when you keep more of the hue within it, within the darker or the lighter colors. Both of them operate the same. So you might want to work with that. It makes a very luxurious kind of look to it. So you might want to give that a shot if you want to work with those. But I would say this one, or this one would be my choice. Where you placed your text, it's actually, I think, a good place in terms of your design where you have everything right now, because it's an emptier space. But I'm wondering if in your design it might not be a good idea to maybe do something a little bit different. I'm going to use this just as a, I kind of would be inclined in your design to actually just maybe, do something like add a bar of, get rid of that, hold on. Like kind of like, I just added a little bar here of like that color to, create an empty space here, and then I might pull this up here, make it a bit bigger so it really pops. You could do the same thing down here, you could put the text down here instead, but it seems like it really wants its own spot. So I might do that with your text. And then again, I might play a little bit more with your design. It feels like, especially once you get into the next phase where we're going to just work on one single poster size design, I might add a few more shapes here. You could experiment. I could see working with some gradients in your, somewhere in your design. Like we worked with gradients a little bit with the depth studies that we did. There's some, I think, tutorials in there on how to do that. But maybe a little texture, a little a little depth. Or a little gradient, something to kind of make maybe in the background or in the flowers could be really pretty for your design. So keep experimenting. Again, maybe a few more shapes. Keep experimenting, playing around with it. But I would say that you've got some good color choices here. 1, 2, maybe 3. One of these choices, whichever one you like the best. Oh, one last thing. I wanted to mention neutral here. So this, neutral is really not exactly a color harmony. So it's in the, color schemes. It's been placed there, but neutral is, again, not in general a color harmony. So I'm not too, we're not really learning color harmony here. But just to be, to be in line with the course materials, when they talk about neutral, they're talking about desaturated colors a little bit more. Like, let me pull up the course page here. So here's some neutral ones. So the main kind of characteristic of the neutral ones, these aren't, probably this one, and maybe this one is the best example of a neutral design, is that you work with like desaturated colors. So again, back in the, I love the color picker because you can see all the colors in here. So I'm going to swatch this color with the eyedropper, pop in here, and what you would do then is just like move into these grayed areas. Anything that looks kind of grayish or brownish, like here, you replace maybe this purple with, you could even go like more, kind of grayed out, like something like that. And you would do the same with the yellow and the green. So technically that would be more accurately a neutral color harmony. If you don't want to do a neutral, if you like these colors, they could be like, it's almost a complement here. If you just made everything green and pink, you'd have a complement. So you could actually just change the name if you want, and then change the yellow background and have, again, green and pink as your complement. Placement of the typography. Okay, yeah, let's take a look at that. And the door of the building. Okay, let's take a look at that one too. Okay, yeah, achromatic, warm, cool, and monochromatic. Great. These are really nice, and especially because they're all, quite different from each other. And that's exactly what you want to do at this phase, is to really experiment with different color harmonies. So let's actually talking about the things that you mentioned, which was the door. And yeah, I would take the door off. At this point, I don't think you need the door. Um, and the placement of the text. Okay, so yeah, so placement of the text. I'll give you maybe a little bit more advanced type um, placement instruction, but not too hard, because I think that's what you're looking for here. Again, this isn't a typography class, so I don't really want to get too much into it, but this is a really good tip. So what you have happening here is you have centered text, and then you have kind of more left-aligned text. Now, those two together, they can work, but in general, it's better to either have all centered text or all aligned in one place, left aligned or right aligned. In your particular design, I would say that since it's not a symmetrical design, it's not perfectly symmetrical, it's always stronger to do either a left or a right align. And what does that mean? It means I'm going to take this line here, just a guideline here, pull it out, and I'll just pop it maybe, somewhere here. This is just a guideline that won't show up later. And then what I would do is take a guideline like this and then line up all of this text against this left line. So you'd move this over here, and then you'd move this over here. You could keep the box around it and line the box up at this edge, the edge, this here with this. I think you'll probably be a lot happier with that, because then it's like it'll really look very strong and professionally crafted. Okay. Okay, so that's done. And in terms of which color harmony, I like them all, really. I mean, in terms of, I guess when I think of a grand opening, I tend to think of something with more energy. It's like, grand opening. So I kind of maybe be inclined to this here, the warm, or the cool, even though cool is not necessarily the most excitable, because you've got like a variety of different cool colors here. I think it creates a sense of energy. So those would probably be my two choices. All right, well, keep working with this. I think you're really, again, one of the things that I really love about critiques is that often at times it affirms what you already know to be true about what you're working on. Like, it's like, this isn't quite working. And so a lot of times what we're doing in critiques is just in a way building that I that you already have and saying, yes, I think you're on the right track here with thinking that. Anyhow, okay, good. All right, yes, bright colors, why not? And I like what you actually have done here is actually mixed it up a little bit. You have some bright colors in the design, in each of the designs, and then some that are a little bit maybe less bright or a little darker, and that's always a good way to work. So you don't want everything in a design to be bright, because that's too overwhelming. The eye doesn't know how to focus. But having like pops of bright color is a really good way to work with it. So you've got monochrome, analogous warm, analogous cool, complementary. Yeah, good experimentation here. And I like the way you've just, again, worked with all of the different colors. I think they're really, just really working nicely. And yeah, in terms of which one to choose, boy, I think I'm going to let you decide. I think these are all possibilities. You could work with any one of these. Like monochromatic tends to be a little more subdued, although with more saturated color, it has more energy. Like bright, by saturated, I mean brighter colors. So to me, this has still a lot of energy, although a little cooler. This is definitely the most sort of fiery and intense because of the warm colors, so it really pops. And then analogous cool kind of operates a bit like the monochrome with a little more energy because of the fact that it's working with more hues than just one single hue in the monochrome. And then complement tends to have quite a lot of energy as well, with the push and pull between these the opposites on the color wheel. So Yeah, I'll let you decide. I think these could all be good choices depending upon what you want to emphasize.